Like, what is God?
I mean, everyone would give you a different answer. I think, like, I say I'm agnostic, not atheist, because I don't believe in I would say I'm completely atheist to, like, the Judeo-Christian God or, like, the Hindu gods, anything like that, but there is something in just, like, existence and consciousness that I could say I could see why someone would conceive that as a god, if that makes sense.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Inside the Box, episode 17. Today, we're joined by Joe Milio, one of my wonderful coworkers based out of New York City. It's freezing cold over there, and Joe just walked outside and froze to death, and we're just coming back from a surf session. So, Joe, if you want to give a quick little intro about yourself, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think you understated it. It's actually well, it was 9 degrees before, now it's down to 8 degrees here in New York. I know you guys are
Yes.
having the polar opposite experience over there, just coming back from
Beautiful stuff.
surfing. But yeah,
Yes.
like you said, I'm Joe Milio. We work together. I just had the pleasure of meeting Henry, and, I was brought on to talk about religion, politics, and I think or excuse me, religion, philosophy, and life, I think.
Yeah.
Just to give a little background on me, I didn't go to school to study religion or philosophy, but I used to be very religious, now I'm not, and, a lot of the stuff I study and watch is based around religion and philosophy, so I guess I'm an expert the same way someone who watches basketball is an expert in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. That's so just straight into it, huh?
Yeah,
No,
for sure.
that's a pretty, fair take. I feel like, what I've talked about with you is just kind of your background in the interesting sort of school system that you were in the past, and just, like, how fascinating it was to all the rules that you had to follow and how that kinda shaped your mindset around, like, religion and just philosophy and just perspective on life. So, um I think that, the first thing that I kinda wanted to dive into was what your sort of school system was like, if you're comfortable talking about that, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, for
it'd
sure.
be interesting for Henry to get a kind of perspective on that as well.
Yeah, so I know me and you talked about this a bit, Lucas, but I don't know, Henry, if you're familiar with what traditional Catholicism is?
Yeah, I was raised Catholic, so
Well,
Okay.
there's, like yeah, I'll let you explain, Joe.
Yeah, so
Oh,
not
it's
crazy stuff.
similar. I think it's just a more extreme version of Catholicism.
Mhm.
Basically, I don't know how, uh, like, deep you went into Catholicism, like, if you know too much about, like, church history and stuff, but basically in the 1960s, there was this church council called Vatican II, where the church basically said, like, "We need to catch up. We're very behind the world. We need to modernize. We need to make this feel like something that exists more in the 20th century." Most people went along with the changes, but my small group and a lot of other people thought the changes were way too radical. The church was getting too progressive, too accepting. So they basically wanted to freeze time in the 1960s and stick with 1960s Catholicism. So, basically, a guy from here, Brooklyn, named Clarence Kelly decided that he was going to basically start his own church. He wouldn't have said that he was starting a new church. He thought of it as like he was staying with the Catholic Church and the Catholic Church itself was changing into a different religion. So people who grew up traditional Catholic typically they usually have that view that they're the actual Catholics and like someone like you, Henry, is not actually Catholic. You just think you're
Mhm.
Catholic. So
Right.
yeah, I grew up I would say I think a lot of people would say Catholics are have, like, some old-fashioned views, but I think I grew up with an even more extreme version of that.
No, for sure. From what you were explaining, it seems, very different than just traditional basic rules of going to church and just, like.
Yeah. What was so crazy about it?
Well, his school system, I get you can kind of, like, describe it. I know you probably don't wanna, like, point fingers at anything, but you could talk about it, like,
No,
broadly
no,
if it.
for sure, it's one of those things, it's like, I'm not bitter towards it, it's something that it's not for me, I mean, there's definitely some things that I would say are bad about it, I don't like the homophobia, I don't like the old-fashioned views of mental health, but other than that, for the most part, it's just people who like old ceremonies, and it's mostly harmless.
Yes.
Some people would call it a cult. I used to call it that a lot more, I think. Now I kinda lean more towards maybe that's slightly an extreme word for it. I think, like, it's not as bad as the cults you'd see on, like, a Netflix documentary or something, but it has a lot of the same attributes. For example, like, we were not allowed on the internet in school, like, that was completely no, 1st grade through 12th grade, not on the internet. They would say it was because they didn't want us watching, like, porn and stuff, but I think as people got older, they kinda got it, was they didn't want people, like, researching stuff, looking into stuff for themselves, kinda just to keep the
100%.
information, um, out, I suppose. You weren't allowed to read, like, anti-Catholic material, basically anything that would go against the ideologies they wanted you to hold and believe, you were not allowed to explore.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there
Such
was that. There's also, like, other things that I would say make it a cult versus, like, a religion, like, the way it's very hard to leave. So I left, what would it be, 2019? Well, I officially left I pretty much left in 2017, but then I would say I fully left in early 2019. And I kept it a secret from everybody for a long time because they don't typically treat people who leave super nicely. Um, my mom knows now, she's definitely not thrilled about it. My mom's, like, a little more on the progressive side, but I have some friends who left, told their parents, and their parents, like, don't talk to them anymore. That makes it more of a cult than a religion. I think that's, like, one of the things where I'd put it in the cult category.
yeah. I
Definitely.
This is something that I'll ask Henry. How would you define, like, what a religion is? Like, what makes a religion a religion?
Oh my god.
I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but that's just kind of like a vague, like, question that was kinda coming to my mind right now.
Dude, I
Like, what
honestly
makes a cult, you know?
a cult has like a figure that everyone worships,
Figurehead,
but
yeah.
that's an actual person
Yeah, like
that
someone
has
living.
like full control over his constituents.
Yeah.
Um,
That I feel like that's what makes Joe's situation more of a religious group
Well,
than a
we
cult.
did have one guy, but, like, he was venerated, but in a different way than I think cult leaders are. Like, he had the final say in absolutely everything. Like, people listen to him. They headquartered the church up in the Catskills. We have little branches all over the place. We actually have one in, San Jose would be the closest one to you guys if you guys ever wanna check it out. Not that that's that close. But, basically, it's a little property. It's 2 properties. They have the priests and the nuns on 2 separate properties, but they're, like, right next to each other. It's a little town called Round Top, and I did the math one time. It's so small. They have about, like, maybe 150 nuns and priests altogether that, like, 1 out of 10 people who live in that town is, like, part of, like, this guy's religious organization, like, lives on those 2 properties. Um, so, like, yeah, he has basically, like, complete say over, like, all of them. Like, for, like, the people who are, like, lay people, like, day to day, go to church, like, yeah, you, like, do whatever he says, but I think something that would make it more of a religion versus a cult is, like, he can't just say, like, "Okay, everyone has to wear the color purple." Like, you're, like, in huge trouble if you don't wear purple. He's going off of, like, the rules that were already established by the Catholic Church in the 1960s. But there are
Yes.
certain things that are very like, growing up in it, I don't see it, but when I bring people who are outside, like, the first thing people always say is they're like, "Oh my goodness, this is a cult." I have friends, like, my friends who are guys, like, they'll date girls who are outside, and I think I kinda give off the energy that I'm not on board with it, and the first thing they'll always say to me, they'll be like, is this a cult?" I'm like, "Kind of." Like, it's definitely, like, cult territory.
lost. Yeah.
And you'll get a million different answers depending on who you ask. If you ask anybody inside, they're not gonna say it's a cult. Like, they think it is like every cult thinks they are the one correct religion.
We talked about this briefly, but do you think that Mormonism is kind of like a form of a cult in a way? Yeah?
I think it kind of falls where traditional Catholicism falls, where it has a lot of cult-like attributes, but I wouldn't say it's like Heaven's Gate or, Jamestown, where the leader has absolute control over
I
everything.
think the Joseph Smith kinda started it. He just made up something
Yeah.
and started this religion because he wanted power. I feel that's kinda how it went.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not like a cult, but
Yeah, and the thing that, like, is so, conflicting for me is, like, I have such good friends that are Mormon and even like, family members that are just the most nice, like, sweet people ever, so it's like, it's,
there's definitely good
no, definitely.
Mormons.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. I've never met a Mormon that I didn't like. I've met a lot of Mormons in my travels. They're always the nicest people. Again, some of their views are a little backwards, but they're nice people at heart.
So and most of them, they don't really, I think, believe the extreme views, but there's, like, different pockets of, like, more extreme Mormons.
Yeah.
So, I think that's, like, a good analogy, and sometimes people will compare traditional Catholicism with those more, like, extreme versions of Mormonism, like, the ones that still practice polygamy and, like, don't actually follow the Mormon Church, they follow the old rules of Mormonism
There's, like,
before.
small towns in Utah that
Yeah.
are, like, on their own sort of, like, rule
Right,
system,
and
which
they're
is
just like us, where they consider themselves the actual Mormons, like how we would consider ourselves the actual Catholics, only, like, the actual organization itself does not agree with that at all. But I think getting back to, is Mormonism a cult? I think one of the things that people would say differentiates the 2 is how big it is. I think if you look at something like Mormonism or, like, the Catholic Church, you would say, "Oh, that's a religion, that's not a cult." But, like, back when it was Joseph Smith and his, like, one town of followers, it started, in a little town called I can't remember what it's called, but it's in upstate New York. It's, like, 6 hours north of here in a suburb of Rochester. That's where Joseph Smith found the golden plates, and he started Mormonism. Basically, the whole area and the state of New York thought it was a cult. So they pushed him out west to Illinois.
Yeah, you got
He
chased
actually
out.
crossed he crossed paths with Abraham Lincoln, and then he got kicked out of Illinois, ended up in Missouri, and then eventually there might have been another stop on the way, but he ended up all the way out in Utah. Then it grew like crazy to the point where now it looks more like a religion, but was it a cult back then? Maybe,
He
but you could be
created
changing a
he created his own militia too, in a
Yeah,
way, to,
yeah,
like,
and
defend
cults
Mormon.
will do stuff like that, like,
Right.
Jamestown was very similar, like, they would fight back with the police. We don't do that kinda stuff, again, it's we exist and we're very, like, we don't bother the world doesn't bother us, if that makes sense.
I watched this, Netflix, docuseries. It was more of, like, a drama series, but it was all about the frontier, like, the early days of the frontier and how everyone was battling over land and, like,
Yeah.
expanding west, and there was, like, huge, like, territorial wars between the Mormons and, like,
Have you seen American
Jamestown.
Time
I think that's what it was.
That
I
is
think that
such
it was
a
that
good
show.
show.
Yeah.
You should watch it.
It's really good,
It's like
but
when the
it's a
Mormons
show.
first got out to Utah, so they're fighting, like,
Yeah.
Indians and the
Mm.
pioneers, and there's a huge massacre that the Mormons
They
perpetrated.
they I don't know if this is a true story or not, but they actually it is a true story? That's crazy. There was a Mormon militia that killed their own, like, town, like, a bunch of people in their own town, and then they blamed it on Native Americans to, like, frame
Really?
them and make it look like they did it, and then um to try and make, the frontiersmen go after the Native Americans instead of the Mormons and, like, make them look like savages. Pretty
Wow.
crazy story.
That's why yeah, I know back in the olden days, Mormonism was a lot darker than I think it is now. Again, it still has problems, but I feel like I find that with most groups, like, usually the people themselves are good, it's the organization itself that is
Yeah. I don't like Catholicism anymore because of how widespread their corruption and pedophilia is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
But again,
actually
it's go ahead, sorry.
the whole the whole organization's pretty rotten to the core.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the greatest, it's just not something I wanna support.
I mean, something that Joe and I talked about last time is that there's so many roots of religion that are positive and good and virtuous and, like, just being loving to other people and caring towards other people, but that gets, overshadowed by all of the war and, like,
Yeah.
atrocities and
Well,
pedophilia and stuff that has happened over so many decades. And
I mean, power, I think, corrupts people. So
yeah.
when an organization finds power, the people within it, the power corrupts them. So then they use the name of religion for their own ends.
Yeah, that's another thing that I kinda wanna talk about is, like, do you guys think that religion itself is to control people at all, or is it to enlighten people, or is it to bring people together within their communities? Like, is the purpose of religion on an individual level, or is it on, like, a collective level? Like, for someone like, you and I that reads a lot of stuff about Christianity, I feel like we would say that it's about finding virtues in, yourself and being nice to other people, and that's, like, the main root of things, and also just, like, believing in a higher power itself, but, like, I feel like there's a part of religion that is there and exists to, like, control the masses in a way, if you know what I mean. I don't know. Joe, do you have any thoughts on that at
Yeah,
all?
so I think that goes back to, like, the structure being corrupt and not the people itself. It's like Henry, like you said, with, like, the pedophilia, that's, like, the church itself. That's not, like, the Catholics like, the Catholic people that, like, you see in the grocery store and stuff. That's the organization itself. I think that's, like, to answer your question, though, Lucas, that's kind of a loaded question. I think you could say, yeah, some religions are more about the control, some religions are more about the goodness. I think a lot of times non-denominational Christians and, secular humanists, which is what I consider myself, like, I'm, like, atheist, secular humanist. We usually are the most similar, funny enough, because the only difference is one believes in God and the other doesn't. And you said it just before, like, "Do unto others as you want done to you." Like, those, I think, were the wisest words ever said, and that's what human, secularism is based off of. Just the
Mm.
idea of, like people will say sometimes like, "Oh, if you're an atheist, then like, why don't you go around stealing and, hurting people?" It's like, well, you can just use common sense that if everybody did that, the world wouldn't be able to function. And I also don't want to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I don't need
yeah,
someone telling me it's wrong. I don't want to hurt people. I want to be kind to everybody. It's just a better way to live.
yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of like whether you call yourself a secular humanist or a Christian, like these rules and like the established rules that allow society to function, like come from, a lot of these religious texts. Like that's the foundation of our society basically is these rules. It's not about whether you believe or not in like a supernatural entity, but more what the text is telling you to do, I feel like. And I think a lot of people, like you said, you kind of relate to a Christian in the way you behave because it's coming from the same foundation, you
Mhm.
know. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah, for sure. And
yeah,
then
like go ahead, go ahead.
no, I cut you off. Go ahead.
I forgot what I was gonna say. I was just gonna say that's like I think a lot of people in the West don't realize like, where their roots are from. Like there's a reason
Yeah.
like the West is so different than the East, like in our culture. It's built off of a lot of the West is built off of like Judeo-Christian values.
Yeah.
Just
Some
as
good, some bad for sure too. Like there's definitely a lot of bad stuff that comes from like a lot of those texts that people people can either just ignore, which is totally fine, or they're just not applicable to today's society. Like, what do you consider yourself, Henry? If you don't mind me asking, if that's like personal, that's
I would say I'm Christian. I would say I'm a Christian.
okay.
I identify the most with like, the Christian teachings like in the Bible.
Mhm.
I grew up Catholic. I went I became like an atheist.
Do you go to Catholic school at one point?
I went to like Sunday school. And actually I did go to Catholic school for like 2 grades
Oh,
when I was
okay.
young. But so I grew up, around all of that. I didn't get it at the time, and then I kind of became an atheist, agnostic because of like my life. Like I don't know,
Mhm.
I was like, I don't believe this. Like you're telling me, I was just kind of rebellious, I guess, in a way. And then I had an experience with ayahuasca that
Mm.
made me believe in God. And
Yeah.
then like I was agnostic or atheist basically up until that point. And then I started to I started to read the Bible, like verses out of the Bible every day. And I just felt like, like the outcome of like following these practices is the best outcome I could get. And then I'm also very open to, other religions just in the way like I'm trying to learn. Cause I think most religions follow a similar pattern. And the reason that I think that they do is because they're all talking about one fundamental universal truth that is interpreted differently based on the region it comes from. But I think like it's like why would these different religions from different times and different areas of the world teach the same thing? To me, that's like there's some fundamental truth underneath that is in there that is like worth, exploring and learning about to just
Yeah.
kind of enlighten yourself.
Is the fundamental truth the belief in a higher power, or is it the belief what
That's
was
the thing too, like God separate don't even think about God as like an entity, like a supernatural being or whatever. Like take that out of it. It's like God is also a framework of living. It's like an aim. It's like a way to be.
Mhm.
And it's like that's why it's like the way, you know? People say like the way, like the Jedi way. It's not
Yeah.
so much like, oh, there's some person in the sky. It's like, oh, this is a way of living that embodies God. Like it characterizes what God is, you know? And I think that's what like every religion you're trying to achieve that point where it's just kind
To
of
feel like you're living in the best possible, like, model of
it's
God,
like
yeah,
enlightenment in a
yeah.
way, you
Yeah.
know?
I need to try ayahuasca, and it's because I feel like anytime someone is an atheist and then they go back, it's always because they try ayahuasca. But I'm curious,
Yes.
Henry, do you believe in when you say you believe in God, do you believe in like God of the Old Testament? Like, is that when you think of God, is that what you conceptualize? Or to you, like, would that be no difference than different than believing in like Allah?
I'm reading a book about the Old Testament by Jordan Peterson, I'm sure you know.
Yeah, yeah, I know Jordan
Right?
Peterson.
So and he's going through Humanosphere guy, a story of the Old Testament, and he's basically extrapolating, like, the psychological message from each part. And
Yeah.
as I've
I
been
know that's
reading
how he I know that's how he justifies its existence. Like, I've seen a lot of interviews. Do you watch Jubilee?
Oh, I've seen a few Jubilee
Did you
videos.
see the Jordan Peterson Surrounded episode? I think, like, I wonder if that's how you like, the way he views God is not like, it's not a being at all. It's kind of just, like, existence, it's truth, like, that is what God is to him. Like, is that how you view God?
I think that's more accurate to what it is,
Okay.
because I don't think people, like, try to characterize God, and I think that's kinda like, that's a flawed way to it's very hard to like, what is God, you know?
I mean, everyone would give you a different answer. I think, like, I say I'm agnostic, not atheist, because I don't believe in I would say I'm completely atheist to, like, the Judeo-Christian God or, like, the Hindu gods, anything like that, but I there is something in just, like, existence and consciousness that I could say I could see why someone would conceive that as a god, if that makes sense.
Well, it's like it's unexplainable is the point.
Yeah, yeah, you can't put it in words, and I think that's, like, when people believe in God after ayahuasca, that's, like, how they describe it. So it's I'm interesting.
There is something to your existence that I don't think is possible to even understand, and I think God like, even in the Bible, like, if you read it, God takes many forms, like, what is it? It's hard to pin down one specific thing, but I think God is somewhat like everything, everything
The
that is and that is being. That's kind of one way to think
it
about it. But the point is, even in the Bible, like God is kind of an unexplainable thing. But
Yeah.
you know God when you know God. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it's kind of a experiential thing that people have to go through to understand, I feel.
what you're saying makes me think of, like, creationism versus the Big Bang, and, like, that's, like, the scientific belief of, like, how the universe started versus, like, the creationalism belief. And that's a big but there's also still people that are Christian that believe in the Big Bang as well.
Mhm, for
Well,
sure.
even if you go back, like even if you like like metaphysicists, like quantum mechanics, people who study this, there's becomes a point where our understanding stops and then it's like unexplainable. And I've heard like quotes from these people where they're like, the more you learn, the more you actually believe in God. The more like you understand how reality actually works at the most fundamental level.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing like they can't explain it.
I mean, consciousness is something that still is, like, being studied every single day, like, so heavily and researched, but it's so hard to wrap our head around.
We
But
know
I
nothing
Yeah.
about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know a thing about it. And so it's like the Big Bang, like I feel like it's also hard to like the truth of what actually happened, I think, in the beginning of time is very hard to wrap your head around, like either way it went. I
Yeah.
like it's honestly almost unknowable because even in the Bible, just because like he taught like the Bible starts at the beginning of man, like creation and man. But it's like, who knows, like, what is that creation? Like, what was before that? Like, that stuff's not explained. Like, Adam and Eve, it could be that that's part of the Big Bang. Like,
Yeah.
I don't take everything in the Old Testament literally. I don't
Yeah,
think you should.
I think you can't necessarily I mean, as a secularist, I I feel like I mean, I can't explain, like, the Big Bang either. I don't think anybody can explain, like, how this all happened, how we went from a clump of cells to sitting here having a conversation on a podcast. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, like, the secularist argument would be, like, just because you can't explain it doesn't mean, like, the logical conclusion is, "Oh, so God." Like, it had to
Yeah.
be created. I think to me that's it's a bit of a leap. You could come to, like, a lot of conclusions just based off the fact that we can't explain where it all started.
This reminds me of what I was gonna say is, like, I think at its core, religion is the explanation of the unknown
Yeah.
to make people, but in a lot of ways, feel a sense of, comfort in a way, and I'm not saying, like, that
I
this is
disagree.
what it is.
I disagree because the more I've read, like the more I've gotten into the Old Testament, the less comfortable I feel,
Like,
actually.
less confident that like, less confident
No, the
about it or
less
less.
comfortable I feel in my life because
Oh,
of
it's
the
interesting.
teachings of Christianity. It's like there
Like, you're striving to have a better life?
yes, like
Okay.
like my current actions and like what I do, it's like compared to what should be and what is right, there is a big like for every person, there's a big
It's
disparity in that. So it doesn't make you for me, it hasn't made me more comfortable, you
Well,
know?
I feel like
It's
more
made me more
comfortable
comfortable.
with ideas like what happens after you die or
Yeah, I'm
Well,
curious to
it's
get
the
into that.
opposite of nihilism,
yeah.
which is like that destroys that destroys people and it
I
destroys societies.
I think I definitely can dabble in nihilism sometimes. I don't know if it destroys well, I guess there's a difference between thinking that there's nothing after this or, like, nothing at its core matters and, like, just straight up nihilism. Like, I think nihilism is again, it's a huge gray area. Like, you could say just like a cult and religion, you could say something's nihilism, you could say something's not. Like, I believe there's nothing after this. I believe nothing we do in the grand scheme of things matters, but it matters on the day to day, being nice to someone, like, doing something fun. Like, you could have the view of, like, why do anything at all if it's all gonna just disappear? It's it's definitely not easy to come to get comfortable with, but I don't know, I feel like I'm getting better and better at it. Like, I feel like it's something me not believing in an afterlife, and I wish I did. I tell people that all the time because sometimes even, like, people from my church, they'll say, like, "Oh, like, that must be so sad and so depressing," and I'll say, "Well, it could be sometimes, but it doesn't make it, true just because it would be better if there is one." But I don't know. I personally don't believe in one. I can't prove that there isn't one. I really hope there is. That'd be nice. As long as it's not, like, traditional Catholic heaven and hell, or, like, we were taught, like, 99% of people, like, literally roast in for all eternity. Like,
My
that
God.
was our version of it. So I hope we were wrong, but
Yeah. I was gonna say, do you care about, like, leaving, like, a legacy behind for, like, people that know you or for, like, your like, future, like, relatives and stuff that know you? Because that's something that, like, I think it extends outside of, like, religious beliefs or, nihilism beliefs or whatever. It's like,
yeah.
how are people gonna remember me? Like, I have a thing on my wall that says, like, "How do you want to be remembered?" And it
Yeah.
try to, like, remind myself that even if I am gone one day, hopefully I've left like a good footprint or imprint or whatever.
No, I don't think I am. I don't think I am a nihilist, but I do agree with there is a term for it, and I can't it's not absurdism. Absurdism is along the same lines. It's the idea that nothing matters, so just, like, do whatever you want, be as crazy as you want. I guess it's kind of without, like, the craziness, I guess. I wouldn't say I'm, like, a
If I lived
particularly
in New
nihilist
York, I'd
person.
become more of a nihilist person, and New York is a crazy place.
Yeah, it is. That's very true. In this 8-degree weather, you'd become a nihilist, Henry. Yeah.
Well, maybe more cynical,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah,
cynicism.
maybe. Yeah, if I was swimming in the ocean today, I probably would, I'd be a little more optimistic. No, I'm kidding. No, it's so funny because I do believe this is for nothing, but I think I am a pretty optimistic person. I think most people would agree with that. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I like most days. I mean, everybody has bad days, but I love my friends, I love my family and my life, the things I do. Like, to me, I get so much value from it, and it's still like I don't want all this to end, but it's starting to matter to me less and less, which
Mhm.
is I hope that trend continues because I for the longest time, I had never met an older atheist until actually, funny enough, I was in Argentina, and the hostel I was staying at, the grandpa, he spoke good English too, so we had, like, good conversations. My Spanish was not, like, good enough to get this deep with him. But he was basically saying how he was an atheist. He became an atheist when he was really little, and he was saying how, like, when he was a teenager and in his 20s, he was terrified about dying because he thought there was nothing after it. But he said just like as each decade went on, he went more and more comfortable. He got more and more comfortable with it. And he said, like, if I died tomorrow, like, it just is what it is. And I was like, okay, hopefully I follow the same path because I mean, I guess when you get older, you have to become more comfortable with it.
It's better to just be happy and, like, just try and enjoy and live every single day to the fullest than to live, like, in fear constantly.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, for
yes,
sure.
you should have a level of fear to, like, not jump out on the road and, like, get hit by a car and, do dumb stuff like that, but, I would rather be, happy and comfortable with that sort of
Yeah.
idea than not. I think a lot of people, at least in the US, they run into situations where their health fails them before they feel like they've lived like a long life. And
Yeah.
I've seen that with I mean, a lot of my older relatives that have passed like in very late age, but
Mhm.
I think it's sad to see a lot of at least like Americans and people that like um be scared to pass away because of like an illness and stuff like that.
Yeah. And just like a fear of that they didn't live their life to the fullest because you do
Yeah.
only get one of them. So it's like you gotta do the most with it. That's one of my goals, I feel like, in life is to just, when I do get old and I know I'm gonna die, just to be like, "You know what? I did everything I wanted to do. I
Yeah.
lived life to the fullest." I'm on track for that. I definitely I've experienced a lot. I know you have too, though, Lucas. I'm sure you have as well, Henry.
I need to travel a bit more before I can feel comfortable with that sort
I
of.
feel like you
Uh,
still traveled more than most. You traveled more than, like, the average person, I feel.
I feel like I have to.
Yeah.
But I need to go trotting around Europe a little bit more,
Yeah,
and then
yeah, for
I'll
sure.
be able to cross that off the list. I feel like you're itching to say something. What do you want to say?
No, not really. No. I mean, it's just if life doesn't matter what gets you out of bed to, do your job and do things for your future self.
Yeah, no, I know what you
That's
mean. It's hard to explain, like, why do anything when it doesn't matter. I feel like if I had that view, I wouldn't have a job, I wouldn't have a home, I would just be depressed and sad, so it's like I might
well,
as well just push
I
myself to
I think that
make
you don't truly have that view because
you think I don't truly have the nothing matters view?
if you thought there was no value in living, you wouldn't live like,
I
you know
think
what I
I think maybe I'm not explaining the nothing matters type thing, like, I don't mean that, like, I care about things, I care about people,
cares about
I
his relationships.
Yeah, I care about experience and friendships. I just feel like I do believe that I'm going to die and, like, it will be the way it was before I was born. Like, I mean, I guess things before I was born affected me, but nothing after will, as weird as that sounds. Like, whatever path humanity goes on after me, I want it to be good, but it won't affect me. History, I guess, does to an extent. But if you think about some random person who lived, like, I don't know, 2,000 years ago, some random person saying just like medieval Europe. Well, that
Yeah.
wouldn't be 2,000 years ago, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
they
Like a super
yeah, yeah.
successful
Someone
merchant
who
and
no one remembers, like, they were just some random farmer, like, they were just they might as well have never existed at this point because it was so long ago, no one remembers them. Like, I'm just realistically, that will be me one day. Even if for some reason I become famous and people remember me for, like, 2,000 years, not saying that's
Well,
gonna happen,
do you
but either way,
believe
like, 10,000 years from now, I won't matter.
do you
It's a weird
believe in
it's a
the
weird
butterfly
thought. That's what I mean. The day to day does matter. But sorry, Henry, go ahead.
do you believe in the butterfly effect?
Yes, 100%. That's what I was gonna say. That's where you can make things matter. Like, even just making a slight decision, and you can have really good positive effects with the butterfly effect. Just being kind to people, being I don't know, just being a good person has a huge effect, and you can make a long lasting change based off that. You can also have a negative effect too, but
So no, for sure. So what you're saying is, what you do now doesn't matter, but then you just said you believe in the butterfly effect. So I would say there's an argument that whatever you do in your life is going to affect the entire course of history in a
yep,
very
that's very
small
true.
way. So you definitely do have, an impact on the future society to a degree. Even that medieval person, he could have said something to one person who had
Mhm.
that affected something, that affected another thing, that eventually,
that medieval guy actually wrote the Old Testament.
yeah, maybe
No,
he's
no, that's extremely true, though. You're not yeah, that's very true. I guess, like yeah, and
so
again, I
I
I guess that's where I do get value from life. Like, just even if I make someone's day a little bit better or I'm a good person and it makes someone be a better person to someone else,
Your
like
butterfly effect sort
yeah,
of.
yeah, that has
why
value.
why would you do like what motivates you to do that?
Because it feels it feels good to help other people.
So I consider myself also utilitarian. So I just believe that like you put out good, you'll get good back. And I guess some people will say utilitarians are completely selfish. Like, oh, are you just being a good person just for like the sake of getting good back? Then, like, no. But being good, it does feel good. Like life is much better when you're nice to people. People like you. It's a much better experience, and that's not why I do it. But it's just I guess it's just like a perk. I don't know. It's just like a nice little side effect that comes along.
Here's a theory. So what you're saying is it feels good to help people.
Yeah.
Not everyone feels that way.
Not
That's
everyone. I would say most people do, but not everyone.
a lot of people, that's not what's on the top of their mind, every day. That's not how they live their
That's fair.
life.
You think of someone in like a big CEO of like a big not that they're all evil, but like a big evil corporation. Okay, yeah, yeah, their goal is not to be good. It's to
Yeah, one example, but one thing that like you did get raised in a Catholic school. You did have these certain values instilled in you that I think you carry with you, whether
see,
or not you believe in it now or not.
some for sure, without a doubt, there are some things that I got from that. I think
I mean, just talking to you, you
Yeah.
sound like someone who came from that background without even you saying it.
I'll say this, I think I'm a better like, my church was very big into, like, they would say charity, like, pushing charity, saying, "Oh, be kind to people." They would say it, but they didn't act it. Like, again, some of these parents disown their kids for being gay or leaving the church, like, they definitely treated outsiders kind of as lesser because they did believe, again, that, like, this group of it's probably a group of what, like, maybe 700 people total nationwide, maybe 1,000, maybe 1,000, but, they believe that they are the absolute, like, correct group and everybody else is completely wrong. So, like, I don't know, I would say, like, I'm more charitable now as an agnostic than I was as a traditional Catholic. I'm not saying that's the case for all Christians by any means. There are Christians who are more charitable than me. There are also other atheists that are as well. But I feel like some good things came from it, some not such good stuff that I kinda had to, I don't know, work around, I guess.
I feel like Henry wants so bad for you to be like, "Wait, maybe I am religious." It's just not gonna happen.
No,
I'm just joking.
if you draw the lines, if you really dig deep into why you do what you do, it just kind of aligns in a
That's
lot
a
of ways.
big argument people make, and people will say I know you're talking about, like, Western culture being based in Christianity too. Um, I feel like for a while, religion was necessary, maybe. I mean, who knows? Humanity could have developed a completely different way, and it would have been different. Um but I think maybe we've just not gotten past it. I think back in the days when, like, there weren't police forces, there weren't cameras, like, there was nothing to stop someone, like, if there was a there was nothing to stop you from just going in, like, killing some farmer, like, stealing all his crops. If you didn't believe that there was some sort of consequence, there was nothing to stop you from doing that unless you were I don't know, I guess unless you were a human secularist back then, which I'm sure that existed.
Well, if we let's bring it to the political, right? So
Yeah.
we don't need religion anymore now, right? But I mean, look at the state of our country currently. Do you think?
What which,
I mean, just
which
just culture, politics. Like, I wouldn't say we're
It's a
trending.
little vague, Henry.
I wouldn't say we're trending in the right direction. Like we have ICE roaming
This
the
Yeah,
this
street.
goes
yeah,
to
okay.
what I said
But
about
but what
religion making people feel more comfortable.
but what happens, I think, when society loses God, quote unquote, um, Carl Jung, like, or Nietzsche, I don't know how to say his name, Friedrich Nietzsche, you know him?
Yeah, yeah, I'm familiar.
He said, like, God is dead. And he was talking about, like, a society where God leaves.
Mhm.
And I think he was citing, like, the 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 Russian, communist uprising and, like, when they killed all the bourgeois and stuff. But, like, once I feel as though when God leaves a society, it begins to crumble. Because if you look at, you know, great empires of the past, the morals start decaying and then the society follows right after.
I don't know if I always agree with that. People love to point out the Soviet Union as that example because that was it wasn't even a secularist society. It was a let's get God out, which secularists don't believe in. Like secularists don't believe I don't believe in God, so I'm going to force everybody else to as well. You could use like people don't know this, but Hitler was Christian. Like, Hitler put on all the uniforms, like, All for God or something. He actually didn't let atheists into his, army because he thought atheists couldn't be trusted. Like, that's how religious that's obviously he wasn't following what Christians believe, but he did believe in God, and he did believe what he was doing in the name of God. So I think it's like I don't know, it's hard to say. Like, what would you say is a better run state? Washington or Alabama?
Washington.
Washington has the highest atheist population in the entire country, and I believe I could be wrong, it might be Mississippi, but Alabama has the lowest atheist population. Like, I think there's definitely some good in Christianity, but you can't say that I think pulling religion out of a society inherently makes it worse. It doesn't make it better necessarily either. That's just an example. You could probably find another very Christian state that runs very well and an atheist state that
It's not about whether the state sanctions it or whether, like, a majority of the people say they are one religion. What I mean is the moral values that come with, a religion.
I think that
And then, I mean, like, the Roman Empire, for example, the morals collapsed, then the society fell after. In the US, our dollar is worth it's the value's plummeting.
yeah.
There's trends that show like our society is breaking down and this American capitalist empire, it's getting a little out of hand.
Yeah,
Uh
sure.
and like it's not about like whether it's everyone's Christian or not. It's like whether people are actually living based on, the morals that are taught. Like, is the family unit cohesive? Like, is there strong family and community within the society? That's very critical for that society to function. Without religion, that becomes a little bit harder to find.
Yeah.
People don't believe in that idea as much anymore in the US that, you should have a family, that matters at all. And you can see, some of the outcomes of that. Like, we have like OnlyFans, it's a huge industry in the US. Like, there's a lot of people who are like addicted to don't they're incels, they don't talk to women.
Yeah.
There is effects that come from this, and it's not necessarily about the religion itself, but it's about people living.
Moral values.
It's about the moral value of the individuals in the society. And it's like, what stops someone they don't have money from going and robbing and shooting someone? The less and less that people have like some type of structure morally, the more and more the darker side of humanity is allowed to come out and wreak havoc.
I have 2 points off that. I feel like I agree with you 100%. We need, like, the collectivist, society is important. I think that's another reason that I think I get value. I believe in society very much. I believe, like, everybody does their little part, and that's what makes us work as a species. I don't know if I can say religion is the thing that needs to be in place. I think it was there for a while, but I don't necessarily think it needs to be the thing that is everybody's moral compass nowadays. Again, I think you're a better branch of Christianity or theism than a lot of people are. A lot of Christians like say they're good people. Again, the people in the church I grew up in, but like they support everything ICE is doing right now. They like they're covering up Trump with all the Epstein stuff. I wouldn't say they're like necessarily good people. Like, do they go to church every Sunday? Yeah, because people will say that to me too. They're like, "Oh, you're a good person, but you don't go to church." I'll say like, someone could go to church and not be a good person. I think I agree
Yeah.
with you 100% that we need structure and like a set of morals, but I don't know if it has to come from religion necessarily. It can for some people, but I don't think it has to for everybody.
Well, it it have it came from somewhere in the beginning is my point. My point is you're not going to rewrite the book of morals. I think there's kind of fundamental truths about how you should live in
Yeah.
order to be a good person. And it's like it was already written. Like it was
Do,
written,
do
you
you
know.
think are you referring to like the 10 commandments? Like where do you think that where's the base of the morals?
Throughout the Bible, what was written in the Bible.
I think Henry points to the Bible as a whole
Yeah,
as
as a
like the
whole.
Okay,
more.
versus like one
And
particular
of course, there's stuff in the Bible that, it's not applicable to our day and age.
Yeah,
There's stuff
yeah.
that is interpreted incorrectly, and there's
Yeah.
stuff that's interpreted in ways that could be harmful. But
Yeah.
at the core of it, I think most of the lessons in the Bible, that's pretty there's really you can't be better than that if you're talking about being, like, a good person.
I mean,
And then it's like, okay, so your morals don't come from there, you're not reading the Bible, but still, society reflects the things that it was built on, the laws and the ways of living that we've been built on for thousands of years. So it's like you're taking these morals that are derived from those texts. You're not just making up this these things because they're already all written. Like, if you really get into the Bible and you read it, there's not one thing that's not talked about. You know
so
what I
if you go back to evolution, because again, I think like I used to. I don't believe like humans all of a sudden, bam, we could talk, we could communicate. I believe we slowly evolved. And we
Sure.
evolved from the more moral ancestors, the ones that were the ones that decided to get in fights and, stab each other and uh be immoral, I guess you'd say. They were the ones that wiped out. The herds that were more, charitable to each other and more, humanist to each other, they're the ones that survived, and we are the product of that. Like, to me, that's where, like, morals come from. Like, that's just how we survive as a species. I don't know if would you say there were morals? Because the Bible obviously hasn't always been around. Like, would you say were there just no morals before the Bible?
Um, I think there is less for
Okay,
sure.
like
There was a lot more pain and suffering in the world, I would imagine.
I
And
think
then
yeah.
even if you look out today, you can't say that only the moral and the good survived because look at what's going on around the world. Like, there's
He's talking about like
genocide.
tribal, like Homo sapiens.
Sure,
I'm
but
seeing, like, so long before we could even talk and communicate. I think that's where we got, like, our earliest morals came from that.
I thought like well yeah
Self-preservation.
probably, but I would argue also I read this book not Homo sapiens
Sabians?
yeah Sapiens, that's what it's called, and then the sequel is called Homo Deus, but it's about how the Homo sapiens eradicated the Neanderthals and like how they did it and why that happened. um and you're kind of it kind of relates to what you were saying, is like the Neanderthals were larger, stronger, um, had better, genetics for like running, jumping, all like athletic stuff, but they weren't like thinking as cohesively or as a collective as the Homo sapiens were. And then Homo sapiens were able to use like tools, and they were able to
Mhm.
build weapons and like overcome people like that. So, um, I guess my point overarching for that is, you know, the collectivism of people,
Yeah,
creates moral that moral structure versus just being like a Neanderthal, like, monkey brain running around just trying to in survival mode all the
and
time.
I
But I
think
think
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I you must not be familiar with humans then, because if you think everybody is moral and good, you're
No,
flat out
I
wrong.
I
I
don't
I
And
think that's just where I can trace, like, the earliest sense of morals, and I think I should have been more clear. Like, those humans weren't nice to everybody, they were nice to their group. Like, that was the earliest form of nationalism and racism, the idea of, like, "We're gonna protect our group and put the other groups down," which isn't moral, but the idea of, like, things like sharing morals within the group were the things that I could say we're the earliest morals where we get the idea of, like, you don't steal, and yeah, they would steal from other herds and stuff. It's it's not a I guess it's not a perfect analogy, but I'm just saying, like, to me, that's where the earliest morals came from, was the idea of, like, we needed to survive, and the things that the humans figured out, like, would help us survive as a species, that was the earliest form of morals.
maybe I'm not super familiar with, the time, but if I remember correctly, I feel like life during that time was pretty brutal and savage, even within tribes. People it was about survival, not creating, like, the most optimal society. So
Yeah.
if you're sick or left behind, you're left for dead, and they survived. And I do think that every person is born with, you could say it, like, a spirit within them that wants good, but I also think it's very important to note that every single person is very capable of evil and
Oh, for
capable
sure.
of of just being
I'm just
barbaric.
I'm fascinated by this topic because it's like, where did morals come from? Like, where, like, before religion was a thing, like, how did people know to like love and respect one another, or even was that a top of mind thought? They were probably just thinking like, what am I going to eat today?
And
Yeah.
society coincides with the beginning of religion. Like when real societies started to come up, it was at the same time that language and religion and those type of things started to come into play. So it's like before religion, we were just almost animals. We were living in
Yeah,
tribes,
yeah, for sure.
nomadic. That's what religion came and gave a structure and allowed great things to happen as far as society goes. And then my original point was even now, there's genocides going on around the world. Humans are not good people. We're not morally by default. We don't have good morals by default. Those things are partially taught, I believe. And I mean, I've had bad thoughts. I've had horrible thoughts. I do all, it happens all the time. I think something completely sadistic,
Yeah.
and that's just part of human nature
Intrusive
sometimes.
thoughts, yeah, it's normal.
But it's like if you don't know it's wrong, that type of those thoughts can hijack a person to do things. And it's like,
I think I maybe thought of a better way to explain. I think I'm not explaining the it is complicated, the root of where I think morals might come from. Like, if you think of, like, don't think of humans, think of, like, a pack of wolves. I think that's a good example. Like, they might treat other animals badly, but the idea of, like, protecting, like, themselves and being, like, kind to the herd itself, I think that is, like, again, it's, like, the earliest form of morals. I'm not saying we could have survived off that alone, um, but again, I don't know if it's necessarily fair to jump to the next, like religion itself was completely necessary as well. I think you could have back then. I don't know if people were advanced enough, but I think you could have taught human secularism because human secularism is the same. It's the same set of morals. There isn't just a fear of heaven in as the punishment, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not good because I don't want to go to heaven. I'm just good because I think it's the right thing to do, and I want to be good.
but someone had to have made secular humanism, and I'm pretty sure it's not before Christianity. And then your point to the walls or the wolves, I think that it's probably more of a function of survival rather than just being morally good. The wolves are trying to be good because they do, like animals kill their young. We
Yeah.
have some hamsters that just ate their babies,
Well, so
No,
rest
no,
in
that's true. I'm not saying I'm not trying to say all animals or all humans were good. I just feel like to me that's if does that make sense? Like, I'm just saying, like, I think
you're
that's
trying
where
to
the
s
I
absolute
did the same
morals came
exact
from.
thing.
what?
Yeah.
Also, that you had this sort of conversation.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't recall that. But I think what my interpretation of what Joe is saying is that if we're taking, humans out of the equation, animals, in addition to humans as well, just want to protect their sort of tribe. They want to look after one another, and that's kind of like a moral code within your sort of family or your tribe, to like protect one another. Yes, like if a wolf gets injured or whatever, they're either gonna like maybe help it a little bit or just leave it to die.
Yeah.
But that's kind of different than the extremely complex moral codes that we were talking about earlier.
And
Yeah,
then like the wolves, the animals aren't doing this for a greater good.
well,
This
what are
is
they doing it
The
for?
greater what is the greater good to them? The greater good to them
to them.
is survival at that point,
But
right?
the
Like,
greater good is what benefits everyone the most as a whole, like as people as a whole. That's different
so
than
maybe that's
animals
what
survive.
religion is. It's something that focuses on benefiting all of society rather than just your tribe.
Yeah,
Possibly. But again, I think human secularism kinda does the same thing. Uh,
who invented that term? I'm
I think
curious.
you could argue it predates, religion, even if it didn't have a word back then. It's just the idea of, again, just putting out good to get good back. Like, the idea of you just treat everybody. I mean, they didn't treat everybody the same, but
But where does that
it's
idea come from? Like,
it's it's
you know,
just a philosophy. I don't know, like, I'm sure someone originally coined the term, but I think just that idea. Like, why does like, okay, back to the wolves. Like, why does a mother wolf not just, I don't know, eat its baby wolf? And I know there's some animals that do that, but there's something there that is telling you, like, this is bad for us for a species. It's that instinct that's there. And I think that
Yeah.
is the root of morals, is you're like, it's instinct maybe. Maybe that's a better way to describe it. An instinct could sometimes do something bad.
I was gonna say it's probably more of just like a neurological thing that is hard for us to wrap our minds around because we
Yeah.
don't understand consciousness fully, um, than it is like a theological thing in a lot of ways. You know, it's just a human. It's like animal instinct and human instinct to just not kill your children, and also
Yeah.
like, okay, if I'm nice, there's this other organism that's bigger than me. I probably shouldn't be rude to it or like growl at it because maybe it can eat me. You know, like
Yeah.
if I walk up to a 6'5" like bodybuilder guy on the side of the road, like, am I gonna be nice to him or am I gonna be mean to him? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
better option there.
That's like survival.
But I think that's where morals are kind of rooted in, and I think religion kinda did that same thing. It was just a structured way of getting us to survive. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you get what I'm saying? I'm not saying, like, that our instincts are moral. I'm just saying, like, that is the root of morality, and then the religion tried to, like, to define it even more.
So I think you're trying to say like what the idea of like good outcomes. So making the right choices for better outcomes. But I still think that I don't believe like we just started and people had that idea in their head. I think we started, even if you believe we evolved, we're animals.
Yeah.
We were trying to survive. We didn't like
But what
we
if
would
it's
kill other
what if it
tribes.
starts
Yeah, yeah,
as
for sure.
survival and then like transitions to something else?
There was a transcendent point.
Yeah, like there's like the morals of survival, and then there's the morals of like a society.
There is a highest good is my point. Like
Mhm.
there is a highest good that has the greatest positive impact to the world as a whole. And that greatest good, like I don't think humans like we obviously figured it out, but like how the Bible was written over like what 2000 years, like
Yeah.
how did all of these people like get it so correct, so accurate, and like like I don't think people just all of a sudden knew, oh, let me act and behave in this way. This is
Yeah.
the right way. Like,
Mm.
what's the reason
It
to
definitely wasn't all of a sudden. It evolved just like we're still evolving. Like I say all the time, like, I mean, what was it? 10 years ago, like, uh, gay marriage still wasn't legal in the US. Like, I believe to me, that's progress, that's morality, that's just society getting better, just being more accepting to people. I know there are definitely people that won't agree with that. I think we are still evolving as a species. I think we've just become I mean, look at racism, for example, like, the way we treated people in this country of color in the 1960s compared to now, like, the unrecognizable it's still not saying it's perfect now, but just unrecognizable how much more morally we've improved since then. And I
For real.
don't think that came from religion. The Bible, I there's a lot of good stuff in it. There's also, like, a lot of definitely not moral stuff in there. And I'm not saying people who read it necessarily follow the bad stuff, but there's slavery. It says slavery is okay. There's genocide in there. There's
It does.
definitely a lot of stuff that people who read it, just like people who read the Quran, don't always follow the bad stuff. There's bad stuff in it, but you gotta try to take the good lessons out of it. And there's definitely a lot of good stuff in there.
the Bible actually does not say slavery is okay, because I've looked into this.
It
Like I
it
heard
d
this.
In
it
the old
does, but
And I think it does.
this is kind of a yeah. I don't love it. Definitely does, but I don't love this topic. How about we pivot to an even more interesting topic that's very related to this, and I like it because you can ask atheists and Christians, and you'll get different answers from both. So, okay, Henry, say that you're right, and we need religion just to survive as a species. And now I don't believe in God. I don't believe in religion. Is it
Wait,
better for me to, if I raise kids, to lie to or not lie to them? I think there's no God. I tell them there's no God. I try to but that's not gonna be enough to make them good. Even if I explain human secularism to them, it's not gonna be enough to make them be good people. Should I lie to them and say there's a God, or should I be honest with them and tell them my, like, secular views?
I think
but
that's a personal choice you make as a parent.
come on. He's just asking you a question hypothetically.
I mean,
Like, I'm
well,
saying, what do you think is better for society? If people like, say, like, take the state of Washington, like, the 30% of people that don't believe it or whatever it is that don't
Well,
believe
should
in
you
God.
say
The
should you
people
say
who
Santa isn't real? You know? Like, it's like, what do you I'm
Yeah, okay,
just
that's a
I'm
very
just
good
having a
that's
little
a very good
confused.
analogy, I suppose. But, like, I'm saying, like, do you think as and it's not supposed to be controversial, do you think, like, you're morally obligated to, like, keep your atheism inside if, like, explain it like, if, like, pushing atheism is gonna make society bad, do you think it's better to just, like, kinda lie and keep your atheism inside?
Um, I think that everyone worships something, regardless if they're an atheist, whatever you believe, you have some idea, you have something that you worship. Like, that's just built into humankind. So if you're gonna say God's not real, you better have something else to teach your children right and wrong. Like, you're not I mean, it's kind of hard to you can model your behavior for them, but a lot of people they worship fear, they worship doubt, they worship things that are not going to lead them in the right direction. So when there's a vacuum of belief, it's easy for people to like worship their Instagram, worship something that's, detrimental to them. When there's that vacuum of belief, and you didn't even grow up like that. Like, you
No.
grew up with religion. Like, you might be a very, very different person if you grew up in a household that had no beliefs. There's some ideal that everyone follows, whether they're an atheist, whether they're, agnostic, secular humanist. You have that ideal that you follow. So
Yeah, for
there
sure.
has to be, I would say, like, you can do whatever you want with your own family, but it's like there should be some type of structure and order. Personally, I think some type of somewhere for your children to look and learn.
I think at the very most basic level, if you're teaching your kids to be super nice to other people and be kind to everyone and just like not be disrespectful to people, then that's just like a basic, like good moral code to abide by.
Mhm.
And I feel like no matter what, like let's say you don't push religion on them, they're gonna go out and like try and look for their own answers on their
Yeah.
own, which might be, maybe they'll become religious on their own or maybe they won't. It's really like kind of up to them at that point. I think
Maybe
that's kind of yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
know.
the kid example wasn't the best. I guess I just mean more as, like, society as a whole. Like,
What's more beneficial for society?
like, this whole generation becomes atheist, and then we
That's
decide
what I wanted to kind of
collectively
round out this podcast with is like where are we headed with religion
Yeah.
in the US and maybe even globally and like what will the effects of like people becoming more religious or less religious have on society as a whole?
Yeah, like, what is better? I think, again, I can't say I meet Christians who are amazing, wonderful people, and I meet atheists who are amazing, wonderful people. I can't say one is better than the other, I think. I mean, I prefer secularism because 'cause I'm a secularist, but I think, again, if like, going back to, like, how I grew up, if I could pull out the homophobia and the just bad mental health, they're kinda sexist, things like that. If I could just get rid of that, everything would be fine. Like, it doesn't matter if you wanna go to a Latin mass or, you know, eh, receive communion, bread and wine, like, that's fine, that doesn't hurt anybody. But, like, there are certain elements, and again, not to all religion, but there are certain elements that I think religion religion can push people in the wrong direction just like it can push people in the right direction.
Yeah, and
I'm pretty sure North Korea is atheist,
I
and
think they
that
are Yeah, I think they are they do have a really large so does, I think Czech Republic is one of the
if
most
I lived in North Korea, I'd be atheist too, bro. You
Oh,
got nothing.
sorry, I was thinking you said South Korea. No, I think North Korea is atheist, but so is
yeah,
Scandinavia, and that's, like, a
Well, they
wonderful
got
place.
nothing to live for there. Those poor guys and gals, bro.
Scandinavia, those countries also have, like, some of the highest atheist populations in the world, and they function fine. I don't know, I don't think it's
Scandinavia.
Scandinavian countries.
Yeah, like Norway,
Sweden,
Sweden, Finland,
Norway,
they're
and Finland. Or is I think Finland, not Iceland. I don't know.
I think Iceland's not considered Scandinavia. I think Denmark sometimes is. I mean, it's mainly Norway, Sweden, and Finland. But again, those countries are super atheists, and like they're great places to live. Everybody loves living there. I don't know. Again, I can't say it's perfect for I don't know. It's It's one of those things. I think religion is good for some people. I think it's not necessary for others. But I can't argue that there's like definitely some bad that comes from religion, and there can be some bad that comes from secularism too. Like, yeah, if you get a dictator who's a secularist and says like like if they don't have that moral like humanist view, that's why democracy is so important. If you don't have that moral humanist view, like yeah, they just say screw everybody. Like I want me or my country to just like wipe the floor with everybody. Like I don't care if I'm stealing oil from Venezuela or, like who like, yeah, if you don't have any sort of like humanism or like view for society, who cares? So
Yeah.
that's dangerous too, for sure.
I think, there's this kind of resurgence, it feels like, of young people becoming more religious or less religious in the United States that I've been seeing, and it's so interesting to see this sort of like extremists or just like people abandoning religion as a whole
Mhm.
altogether, and just like it's fascinating to try and understand where things are headed. But I think at the end of the day, it's people trying to make sense of all the chaos that's going on all the time, and really
Yeah.
just feel a sense of, um, trying to figure out how to love one another and be kind to another in the midst of all this craziness going on.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that, with where things have been headed, it's probably going to continue to diverge down, some half of young people being extremely religious and half of young people being agnostic or atheist, and that'll just kind of continue to branch off in different directions. But
Yeah.
um, I think the underlying tone that I see is just people trying to make sense of a crazy world however they
Yeah,
can.
no, for sure. I just hope as we do diverge, like, because I think, I mean, politically, it's obviously happening. People are just becoming further and further to the point where people almost can't see eye to eye. But I mean, like me and you, Henry, I think we both like, I think our underlying principle that's like the root of everything is just like do unto others as you want done to you. And again, that comes for me secularly, and that comes to you religiously. Like, I hope that I hope we get closer together in that way, and I don't really care whether or not people believe in, like, anything spiritual on the side
Yeah.
of things, if that makes sense.
I
I think
I
I mean, that's one thing. That's
yeah.
one sentence. I think to to be fully enlightened and I guess actualized as a human, it's more than just do unto others as you
Oh, so you
want.
think there is more to like, what else would you say? Like, what else is
Well,
another
there's a lot of I mean, like, if you want to bring up a specific moral, the story of Cain and Abel, it's all about sacrifice. And
big.
sacrifice, the true sacrifice leads to a truly good outcome versus, not a good sacrifice leads to a bad outcome. So the story of Cain and Abel, this is like an example of people. So Cain does
I think he's
Yeah, I'm
familiar.
familiar. I
yeah, but
He
Abel's
but yeah, I'm
sacrifice
familiar.
is most.
Yeah.
He does his best, that's the point. Whereas Cain doesn't do his best. And then Cain becomes resentful,
Yeah.
and then resentment eventually leads to murder.
So
And that's a real pipeline
yeah.
that you can go on in living your life. So I'm just saying there's more things to be learned.
I think the moral, I mean, you could still apply the do unto others. I wouldn't wanna be murdered for having a good sacrifice, so I wouldn't murder someone for the same reason. But I think, like, when you say sacrifice, do you mean, like, someone having, like, discipline, like, someone who, like, can
Work.
sacrifice that I agree with you on. Yeah, that's something. I know none of us are, like, sacrificing a lamb anytime soon, I don't think,
Right.
but
No,
I
no.
know what you mean. You could apply that for sure. I don't mean it's the only thing, but I think, like, the root of everything is do unto others as you want done to you.
There's more to life than just living by that, and it is complex, and there's a lot of things that
That's my point.
yeah, no.
There's a lot more
I think
to
I think Joe and I both completely agree with you on that, that there's so many complex things that you have to become and work on yourself as a person in order to feel like actually spiritually enlightened, like as a whole. But I think at the most basic level, something that all of us can agree upon is do unto others as you would want
Yeah.
done.
I mean, that's a fundamental thing is like we're all equal or like we're all children of God. So that's kind of the same idea. But I'm just saying that, you know, there is so much more and it gets a lot deeper than that simple fact.
And
There is a lot to be learned um through. different religious texts that really they lead to the best possible outcome for your life.
And
You
that's
know?
that's why I'm so fascinated with religion and philosophy as topics of conversation, because it's just this ongoing discovery of trying to understand and make sense of spirituality and why we're all here, and just these super hard to grapple with questions. So
Yeah.
I think, the conversations like this are just a really interesting to me, and I think that, you and Joe have such, like, differing viewpoints on so many things. That's kind of fun for me to sit back and watch and just
I
study
mean,
it.
and whether or not you believe in life after death or a God in the sky, there's a lot of like knowledge to be gained through like the Bible, for
Yeah.
example. A knowledge to be gained that's actually applicable to every area of your life. And once it's put into place, like the outcome becomes better, for yourself. And it's like a lot of stuff that I didn't even think about, like, okay, yeah, how you should be, but there's just so much to be learned about like the way you live in
Hmm.
other ways besides just, treating people how you want to be treated. That, to to really grow, I feel like everyone like at a certain point in your life, I feel like as me being 25, I've gotten to a point where like there's stuff I need to study and read and
Hmm.
like I need to learn more, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? At
Yeah.
a point where I'm like I want to learn more. I'm not really satisfied with the level of knowledge I have. My life is not exactly like, how I would want it to be. So there's something I can learn to, improve my own life
Mhm,
and improve my day to day.
mhm,
Yeah.
And it's like, where do you go to learn this stuff? So you can read stuff like I want to read more Carl Jung. I've been reading
Mhm.
Fyodor Dostoevsky, and it just a lot of this stuff points back to the same place. And that's what I've just found in my
yeah.
experience.
And
And
Yeah.
I think
it is what it
that
is.
goes
Yeah.
back to what Joe's saying, is like everyone has their own sort of experiences with religious texts and just studying religion, and it speaks to people in so many different ways and educates you in parts of your life that you need it to. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's bad for people. So it's
Yeah. I
the whole
just
spec.
like again, just like secularism, I think could do the same thing.
Yeah,
But
I
I want to
mean,
ask you, Mark Henry, when you were Catholic, did you ever read the Bible? Like,
I read the Bible, a comic book version of it when I was like 12, the whole
okay,
thing.
yeah, I had like the little picture book Bibles, but I never
Yeah.
like really read. You know what I
No,
mean?
I
I never
never
like
read.
really read because I mean, there's a trope of Catholics don't read the Bible, and funny enough, now that I'm agnostic, I don't read it, but I study it all the time, and I just think it's fascinating. You can really tie so many. It is so relevant to how Western
It's
society turned out,
very
obviously.
I just feel like it has so much meaning. Every single sentence is put there on purpose. Like every sentence has
Yeah.
deeper meaning that can be unpacked. It's definitely something to study because at the surface it may say one thing, but in the context and then underneath there's so much meaning to be derived. I remember, yeah, I didn't really read the I obviously read it, but like I didn't read it like when I was
Yeah.
like
No, no,
Real
so I
fast.
was curious 'cause people always say that about Catholics, so I was
Reading the
curious if you
Bible, like,
ever.
after you're, like, supposed to be reading the Bible in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, it's a funny thing.
it's different when it's a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
no,
that's
that
how
is
I feel
very
about
true.
reading in
Yeah.
general right now,
Yeah.
like, reading books in general versus, like, having
Yeah,
to
being
read a
assigned one in school.
Yeah, it's way different.
Yeah.
Well, I think we unpacked it quite a bit there. We've been on a roll for a while, but that was awesome. I think we rounded out a lot of the topics that I was hoping to kinda go over.
That was good.
I think that was
Yeah.
that was really
I had
sick.
a great time. I literally love these kind of conversations. I don't get to have them very much. Usually I'm just like usually I'm just studying this stuff by myself, and it's nice to actually be able to, just discuss and debate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
I
think
agree.
you guys, I don't know, you guys like know what you're talking about too, which is nice to be able to,
Yeah. No, I
chat.
think
I know this much. I've barely just
yeah,
Oh,
I know.
same. I know very little compared to what there is to know. And it's funny, we could have this conversation again in 2 years and views would change and we'd know more or less. So it's interesting. But thank you guys so much for I'm assuming we're wrapping up. Thank you guys so
Yeah,
much.
yeah, we're wrapping it up, but yeah.
I
we'll post this next week.
Yeah.
awesome. I hope you guys let me back. I hope I wasn't too annoying
No,
of an
That was a
AP.
great
that was a
conversation. Yeah.
great conversation. I really enjoyed it. I think that
I was surprised. I didn't know what was
yeah, no,
happening at all.
yeah, no, I think that was awesome. We hit a bunch of topics that I was hoping to hit on, so I'm stoked with that. And I think we'll have everything kind of chopped up and put together, and we'll send it over to you beforehand.
Awesome, sound good. Thanks,
Sweet.
guys.
This was Inside the Box, episode 16.
I will stop it right here.
I thought it was 17. Does that
17.
matter?
17.
Episode 7.